So this is creating a classroom community. And my hope for this is really for it to be a little bit more interactive than just me chatting at you. I know you're all kind of in a frozen block right now. So if you don't feel like moving, that's okay. I know it's chilly in here. But I'll just go through a couple idea type things from what I do. And then I'm happy to have you just yell out things that you do too. Actually, all of the sessions that I've been in have been very similar to this. So I think the whole day so far for me has been doing this. So let me go forward. Oh, there we go. Okay. These are the objectives. So talking about why it's important, which most of you already know. Some strategies for how you can do this, and then have an opportunity for you to share your ideas. So, I don't want to go into all the literature. I actually thought that this was, I have to stay here. I actually thought that this was a 60-minute presentation. I'm like, that's great. I can just go through this. And then I was like, oh, it's a 30-minute presentation. So I will not go through all of this. But I think a lot of you know all of this already. The retention, one of the biggest things that we talk about, especially in counseling, is a feeling of belonging. So if we can create that for our students, hopefully they will stay, which is part of the idea of creating that community. So I'm going to show you this video if it works. Do you all know Brene Brown? Some people know her. Okay. She was the one actually that Laura Parson at the beginning was talking about, her empathy video. She has a lot of great videos. But this one is on belonging. So I'm just going to, I think it's pretty short.
Belonging. We're wired for love. We're hardwired for belonging. It's in our DNA. But let me tell you what belonging is. The opposite of belonging from the research is fitting in. That's the opposite of belonging. Fitting in is assessing and acclimating. Here's what I should say, be. Here's what I shouldn't say. Here's what I should avoid talking about. Here's what I should dress like, look like. That's fitting in. Belonging is belonging to yourself first. Speaking your truth, telling your story, and never betraying yourself for other people. True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. And that's vulnerable.
Any thoughts, reactions on that?
I love her. And I've seen that whole talk. I think it's on Netflix, right? That whole thing is great.
So, and one of the reasons, can you all hear me? I don't have to be tied. One of the reasons that I bring this in is because really when we think about students and how they come in, I think students do sometimes, they're like, I have to be the student, I have to do my thing. And so it's like, well, how can we bring life into this room? And so how can we really look at who you are as an individual, help you tell your story to the rest of the group so that you feel like you belong. So that in a sense, I always think of like when my students are gone, I miss them. Like, and some of them are such leaders in the class that I'm like, wow, now I realized I really rely on you. And now I really miss you. But so just trying to think of different ways that we can help students feel like they belong. And I know, I was thinking about this earlier. This is harder for some classes than others. I think it was the previous one I was in, or maybe the one before that. They talked about how they work with like 300 plus students. I feel like that's probably a lot harder than I work with graduate students, smaller classes. But I think I was trying to think of that, how we can maybe take some of these practices and make them fit for all sorts of different classrooms. Here we go. So here, a section on ideas. So first of all, when I teach classes, this varies a little bit, but I always think of like setting the tone. And so some classes, for example, I teach an advanced multicultural class, and that one we really set the tone. And so for that, it's, what do you want this class to be? What do you want it to feel like when you come in? Do you want it to feel like, I'm trying to think of interest. Do you want it to feel like a DMV? That would be a bad experience. Do you want it to feel like, kind of like an engaging party? Do you want it, what do you want this to be? And the other thing we do is, how can other people know that you're engaged and you feel okay in the class? And how will we know if maybe you're pulling away from us? And we make a big list. And so especially for that one where people get triggered, we'll talk about like, when I'm disengaged or I don't want to do this anymore, either I'll stop talking or I'll just like look at my phone or I'll go on my computer. So that already sets up a precedent of, we want to notice you. We want to notice when you're maybe falling off a little bit and see what's going on and try to pull you back on a little bit. And I've actually used this later on to talk to students and be like, I noticed that one of the things that you said that happens for you when you disengage is this, and I'm seeing that happening. What's going on? And then we can have a really honest dialogue about what was happening for that individual and try to change the structure of the class a little bit. So setting the tone and whatever that means, and I think it looks different depending on what you teach, right? I mean, that was for my advanced multicultural class. Other classes, I might do things that are a little bit different. Tonight, this is a setting the tone a little bit. For tonight, I'm teaching a career counseling class from 3 to 8 at night. And I will tell you that our counseling student is probably their least favorite class to sign up for. So they're like, oh, it's just going to be a bunch of tests and things like that. So tonight I'm bringing in finger paints. And so like something like setting the tone, I'm like, we're just going to get messy in the theories. I know that these theories aren't probably the most like exciting things in the world, but they're also really important. We can apply them, but we're going to use some finger paints to do things like that. So trying to set the tone to make it a little bit more active, to create that community. And then if they work together and if they laugh because they don't know how to finger paint or things like that, it's kind of fun. The other thing that I do that could be used in the classroom, usually students say that they really like it. If you have a class of like 300, this might even be something that you could do a, what are those things called when it's like a storyboard, I think, right? When the responses kind of come up. But utilize a check-in question. So if you could do any career and you already had all the talent and preparation needed, what would you do? A roller coaster physicist was the best one of those that I heard. I thought that's great. Favorite breakfast food, favorite book, what adjective best describes you as a child? If you could remove one stressor from your life right now, what would you remove? If you had $1 billion to donate to a charity, which one would you choose? These are all ones that I've used before, but they are just like the most random questions, but it's also just kind of a fun check-in to see where is everyone. And then we can also, based on what somebody says, we can relate things back to that person so that they feel like they belong. Like, oh, hey, Erica. I mean, I know your name's never you, but hey, Erica, you said that your favorite breakfast food was waffles. And then I don't know if there's something in the class that comes on waffles, we're back on Erica again. So like trying to help people feel a sense of, hey, yeah, I do have. I tend to use a lot of comics and jokes and funny stories, usually at my own expense. Because I make a lot of mistakes, but just asking them to contribute to things like this that will help. I even have had classes where I'm like, okay, let's start with your best joke appropriate, your best appropriate joke, or one of the funniest things that ever happened to you. We get some really good stories with that one. And ask them to kind of go along with that to build sort of a fun environment in the class. My last class that I had, the joke all year pretty much was I accidentally deleted my recent folder. I didn't accidentally delete it. I thought my recents folder was sort of like a trash folder. I didn't know it pulled from all my folders and I deleted it. And then I was like, why can't I find any of my documents? Realizing that it like combed through all my folders and deleted it all. And students had so much fun with that all the time. And they were like, anytime I forgot something, they're like, it was probably in your recents. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. So trying to make humor be a part of the class too. Creative, these are all things I've done too. Self-care day, now again, I teach a counseling class. But even if I think you teach chemistry, you could probably have them bring blankets and things, and I don't know why. But snacks, pajamas, whatever to class, friendly competition. I had a great student who worked with me months that created one of the best Jeopardy games I've ever seen. And she also did a values auction, which was super exciting. So anything like that to create engagement. Door prizes, I did use door prizes. Actually, I was using those at faculty meetings just because they were a little dull. So we tried to bring in some things. The setting, go outside, walk the halls. Lately, brain gym, I'm learning more about occupational therapy. My son's in occupational therapy, and you know how important it is to cross midline? I didn't know that. They were telling him, they're like, okay, touch your right hand to your left knee. And he's like, did it. Like, so, but anyway, anything like that you can use to stimulate the brain a little bit. Like I told you, we're fingerprinting tonight. I do use a lot of like Play-Doh, rocks, random materials. Sometimes I'll put a bunch of random things in a bag and give them the bag and then tell them to relate that material, relate every object in there to the material, which just creates associations in the brain, very random. They laugh about it. So trying to get, spice it up a little bit. Okay, so I'm curious your ideas, things that you have done or tried.
You guys can probably go get mine first, since we're already in the room. Grab your lunch.